Hello again. Settle back for a few minutes and let's spend some time together while I examine with you a question. A question is God your friend? Now, looking through the Gospels, Jesus taught his disciples how to pray. They wanted to know how to pray, though they saw him praying and they didn't have a clue how to pray. So Jesus taught them. Luke 11, first reference. I won't read all these references through with you because in 7 minutes it would take me too long. So in Luke 11, the first few verses, Jesus taught his disciples to pray, Our Father, what we know as the Lord's Prayer. God being our Father. That was revolutionary in those days to Jews because he was El Shaddai, Elohim, etc., but not Father. So Jesus came to reveal the name of his Father to his disciples and his followers. Later on in Luke 11, starting about at verse 5, he then goes on, still teaching on prayer, which of you has a friend at midnight who, the situation he portrays there, has another person knocking on his door and saying, I've just had visitors, have you got any bread? I have no bread in the house. Have you got any bread? And he's knocking on the door. And now I was thinking about this and thinking, well, you know, I've got neighbours around me and you have as well. And you think, well, would I actually approach? I've got a nice neighbour across the road who's just about to move in called Daniel. And I was thinking, well, if I was in a situation where I needed some groceries and I didn't have them, would I knock on his door? Well, maybe I would. But would I knock on his door at midnight and keep on knocking until he answers? Probably not. Well, there's the test that Jesus said of friendship. Friendship is with someone you would knock on the door at midnight and ask them for food. And God is a friend like that. You can come to him at any time asking for whatever your need happens to be. Later on in Luke 18, Jesus talks about God as being judge. I'm not going there today, but that's another way in which we approach God as judge. Now, I want to stick with this idea of being a friend. Abraham was a friend of God. Now, I've got various pencils in my Bible where the references are. Abraham was a friend of God, and in Genesis 18 and verse 17, God was sending angels to go and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of their sin. But he said this, the Lord said, shall I hide this from Abraham, my friend and servant? What am I going to do? You know, he's not going to hide it from him. He's a friend. He was a servant, but he's become a friend. And of course, God discussed it with Abraham. And you can read about the discussion in Genesis 18. Now, another person who was a friend was Moses. Moses, in fact, was a friend of God. And in Exodus 32, these are the references I'm giving you, the people had just made the golden calf and Moses had come down from the mountain. And in Exodus 32 verses 11 to 14, God was very angry. And this is what Moses said. He besought the Lord and said, Lord, why does your wrath blaze hot against your people who you brought out of the land of Egypt with a great power? Why should the Egyptians say, for evil he brought them forth to slay them in the mountains? Turn away from your fierce wrath and change your mind concerning this evil. Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and said, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven. In verse 14, and the Lord turned from the evil which he had thought to do to his people. Moses, the friend of God, stopped God from destroying the people. And he said, I will make of you, Moses, a great nation. And Moses said, no, if you do that, what will the Egyptians think? You know, you just brought them out of the land of Egypt just to kill them. No, it's not a good idea. And he reasoned with God, and God changed his mind. The word in the Bible is God repented. Can you imagine that? Moses was a friend of God, and he was able to change God's mind. Now, as friends, we know we're accepted and are party to God's thoughts. The major reference I want you to see today is in John 15. Now, in John 15, Jesus is talking about the vine, and he's the vine and we're the branches. And he says in John 15, verse 14, you are my friends if you do what I told you to do. Henceforth, verse 15, I don't call you servants, for the servant does not know what the Lord does, but I have called you friends. For all the things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known to you. So when we're friends with God, Jesus lets us in on his plan. We get to know his thoughts. We get the mind of Christ. And of course, we have verses in Amos 3:7, that God will do nothing unless he reveals it first to his prophets. God shares his heart with his friends. Now, I want to just finish, because it's 7 minutes, I'm aiming at finishing. How do you know if you're a friend or a servant? Well, if God has revealed his plan to you and you're intimate with him, he will share what he's doing and you'll know where you're going. It's not just a vague future ahead of you. He shared his plans. He makes his secrets known to those who love him. Psalm 25 and verse 14. But the big difference, here's the key. If you are a servant, you work for God. If you are a friend, you work with God. And my final reference is the end of Mark 16 and verse 20. God was with the disciples, confirming their words with signs and wonders. God was working with them. When we're friends, we become co-laborers with Christ. We work with him. We don't work for him. We work with him. That's a whole new ball game. I hope you can get the concept of that. It's really helped me when I've realised that being a friend of God is so much more fun and so much more intimate and exciting and fulfilling than just being a servant. So think of yourself now as a friend, not as a servant of God. Amen. Think about that. Till the next time we're together, God bless you.